What's going on, guys? So I actually wasn't originally gonna make this video until the motor for the drop top was rebuilt, but because I'm getting a lot of engagement on the channel and a lot of you guys are asking for it, I'm gonna make it early just for you guys. So today we're working on an M50 B25 I had from my 95 325i I had before I had the white Alpine sedan. So my second E36, basically, this is the motor from. And the Vanos install is the same on M50s, M52s, S50s, and S52s, so it's all the same. There are a couple little differences between this motor and my S52, but we'll go over them as it progresses. It's a little minor differences here and there. But basically, the concepts are all the same, the torque specs are all the same, all that good stuff is all the same. So let's get started. Tools we will be using: 19mm wrench, 3/8 driver, 3/8 extension, 10mm deep well socket. And deep wells are nice for this job because some of the Vanos housing threads are pretty long and you can't really get through to them with a short socket. 13mm socket, E10 torque socket. I didn't get a set of torque sockets. If you don't have them, do not use general 12.0 it fits everything sockets. E8 torque socket. I have a 3/8 to 1/4 inch adapter on that as well. If I had an E8 Torx in 3/8, I wouldn't need that adapter. 19mm socket, 32mm socket. That is for the chain tensioner, the main chain tensioner. It is 32mm, and if you have a box end wrench, that could work, but that does need to be torqued. 3/8 drive torque wrench. We will be torquing minimum 89 inch-pounds with that, up to 192 inch-pounds. 1/2 inch torque wrench. We will be torquing up to 30 foot-pounds with that. If you have a 3/8 torque wrench and torque to 30 foot-pounds and you have a 32mm socket that fits 3/8, that works too. And you will need a full set of Vanos timing tools. If you don't have them, you basically can't do this job. Okay, just as a rundown before we get started installing all of the Vanos, the engine needs to be set at top dead center. It basically needs to be set. So you gotta have your bottom end set with the flywheel lock pin in, and you have to have the camshafts locked down with the cam tools so everything is set up, so then we can start working on the Vanos. If you don't know how to do that, I will set a link in the description for the video on how to set your motor to top dead center without having the gear timing on. You basically set the cams and you set the block, and then the whole motor is ready to have the Vanos installed. If your bottom end is off time, this timing chain will be off, and that's not good. Your whole timing basically will be off. So make sure your motor is set to top dead center, have your flywheel lock pin in, and have the cam blocks on. So with the motor set to top dead, we're going to install this cam gear here. So this is the first guy to go on. If you watched my Vanos removal video, you'll know that I had you guys set the point on the timing chain of where this mark is. I used a zip tie in the other video. I actually ran out of zip ties, surprisingly. So we're going to remove the wire, and we're going to install the arrow where the wire went. So on that guy right there. And put him on, and he will sit perfectly where we want. Now if you didn't mark this guy, if you'll notice, the threads for the cam actually sit on the far left side of this little jut out for the exhaust gear. So notice they're sitting on the far left side, and if you didn't mark it, that's okay. We'll just set him up. Just throw the gear on as close as you would think it would be. So I'm going to intentionally put it off by a couple teeth so I can show you guys how to adjust it. So there we go. So you'll notice that you don't even see the holes for the threads for the cam. So if you pull the cam gear off, rotate around like that, you can actually rotate the gear without pulling it off. So that's still wrong. So we're going to bring it down a couple more. Loop it around. That's still a little bit off. Not where we want it. Rotate a little bit more. That's perfect. That is right there, right where we want it, right on the left side. So ideally you want the arrows to be pointing straight up when you do this. So this cam gear is actually set off to the side. So I just rotated it so the cam gear is sitting straight up, the arrows are pointing straight up, but it's still off. So we're gonna move him one. There we go. So now we got it. So the threads are sitting on the left side of the holes in, and the arrow is pointing straight up. So if you didn't mark it, basically that's how you set it. You just pull the cam off, pull the chain up like maybe one tooth, rotate it around until you can get it to sit where you want it to sit. It's just about perfect there, and it actually lined up perfectly with my marking on the cam gear. So now from here we're going to be installing the lower chain guide. So these guys actually use E8 Torx bolts. And I find it's easier to put it on and then drop the longer bolt in. And then from here these guys just get tightened down. And these guys get torqued to 89 inch-pounds. And I'm pretty sure there should be a third one right here, but it didn't have one. So if yours has a third one, you should definitely torque that one too. 89 inch-pounds. Okay, so now we're going to be installing the chain guide, or the dummy chain tensioner tool. So we're going to thread that in and then screw this guy in until it starts taking tension on the main timing chain here. You don't want it super tight, just about hand tight. There's no real good way to check it, but don't just start freaking wrenching like hell on it. Just get it pretty good tight. So that's about starting to get difficult right there. That's actually a little tight. So you want it basically about finger tight. It doesn't want to be super tight. If it's too tight, not good. If it's too loose, not good. So you want a decent amount of tension on it, not too much though. I usually like to go ahead until I can move the chain just a little bit on the inside here. Got a little bit of a wobble to it. So basically you want to take all of the slop out, but you don't want to have it super tight. So as long as there's really no more slop in the chain, it's fairly tight, then you should be good. So from here is where we are going to install the upper chain tensioner. So the tiny little bolt goes in the back, our two medium bolts go right up top, and our long bolt goes right through the front. And I like to hand tighten them and then hit them with a torque wrench. These guys get 89 inch-pounds as well as the lower chain guide. So I'm going to start with the bottom guy first. I'm going to do the back guy. And then the two upper ones. There we go. That is in place. Okay, so now we're going to start installing the intake side. Okay, so now our trigger wheel for the cam position sensor is going to go on. And like I said with the removal video, it does have a little bubble right here on the camshaft and on the trigger wheel, so you can't really screw up putting this guy on. He just sort of goes on there. So from here we're going to be installing this plate, and for these bolts I like to install a little bit of Loctite on the threads just to keep them in. Screw one of those in, 2 and 3, and tighten those guys. And these guys get 192 inch-pounds. So there's 192. There we go. Alright, so from here we're going to be installing the two upper timing gears and the upper timing chain. So this gear relationship does matter, and if you didn't mark these when you took them off, or let's say you're replacing a chain here, or you're replacing one of these gears, I have a video on how to set this properly, set it up correctly so that your timing isn't off on the intake cam. I'll leave that in the description for you guys to check that out, just to get it set properly. You do need this to be set up properly, otherwise your timing will be off. So before you put this on, you'll notice it's a little glossy. there is oil on this, you do want to oil this part before you put it on. So make sure to slap some oil on it, on the chain, all that good stuff. Get it all nice and wet. Nobody likes going in dry. So that's it for part 1. The link to part 2 will be in the description of this video. Make sure to go check that out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Keep it fresh, and I will see you guys later.
Maybe you should take it slow.